What's up, everybody, and welcome to Growing Up Gaming, your weekly podcast where we meet a new person of the internet to discuss their childhood with gaming and how it inspired their lives today. My name is Mitch Power. Again, thank you guys so much for returning each and every week to this show. I hope you're subscribing there on iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify, or YouTube, or whatever. However you're getting the show. You might be illegally downloading it from some fake Pirate Bay website. I don't know. However you're listening to it, I greatly appreciate it. This week on the show, we have our guest. His name is Jeremy Barrett. I met this man with the help of Jacob, who I've actually had on the show. He suggested a couple of his buddies to be on the show, messaged them all, and they were all nice enough to spend their time with me. So over the next couple weeks, you'll get a chance to listen to all of them and how they share their stories. So if you guys want to be on the show just like he was, go ahead and send me a tweet at MitchPower1116 on Twitter, or at the podcast Twitter page, which is at GUG Podcast on Twitter. Without further ado, let's get things started with Jeremy Barrett. Do you remember what initially got you started playing games? Was it a family member? Was it a friend? Was it some magazine you saw at like some bookstore? Like, what was it that got you started?
So my biggest issue with this question is that I have such a spotty memory when it comes to it. It can be one of three different things. I think they were all around the same time frame, and I think they all had about the same impact, so I can't really narrow it down to one, but my aunt had a Super Nintendo with a bunch of different games on it that I actually inherited, and it's mine now. But I remember going over to her house when I was really young, probably 3 or 4, and playing a slew of different games that all really... I still, every once in a while, pop them in and still have a good time playing them. It was either that or my neighbor had an NES. Me and her grew up together, and her family had that. And I remember playing Duck Hunt really, really young and having a blast doing that. Or it could be that my mom got our first computer when I was around that age and playing the different games that came with that. I think the pinball game, whatever, Microsoft Pinball was a big one for me. But yeah, one of those three was the first thing that was like, oh shit, these things are cool, aren't they?
Right. No, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think too, because I mean, I remember obviously like NES for me just because of my age and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because especially when it comes to going over to like a person's house, like an aunt's house, like my grandma, for whatever reason, my grandma had her own NES. Okay.
Really?
Well, so my grandma played Dr. Mario and Tetris religiously. Like that,
that makes sense.
Shit. Like she loved puzzle games. But I also remember, I mean, I spent a ton of time over there just as a kid. So obviously I think she had one at her house just because of me being over there all the time. I think it just,
that makes sense.
She had hers and I had mine at the house. But there was times where I literally just spent like a lot of time over there and everything, like just so much time over there because it was just way more fun than it was in my house. But, but yeah, like I remember going over to people's houses specifically and being like, oh, we're going to that person's house. They have this.
Yep, exactly.
And that's such a shitty thing to think of as a kid because all you're thinking of is like you playing something over there.
Well, that's like same with mine. My grandmother had a computer, and me and my younger brother are the youngest of our basically either side of our family. And so whenever I would go over to my grandmother's house, it was cool because like my older cousins had games on the computer. And I remember growing up and having Chips Challenge on the computer and be like, fuck yes, we get to go over to Graham's house. We can play Chips Challenge and mess with a couple more levels on that. So yeah, it was, and then, you know, same with the aunt. It was like, oh, we're going over to Aunt Tony's. Like, yeah, we can play, you know, Mario World or Mario Kart.
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, and like I said, though, I mean, the other thing, too, is if you had, like, cousins or whatever, like, so you go over to somebody's house and, like, at least if there was younger family that were there that were around the same age and made it a little bit better. But, like, I remember going to certain people's houses. Like, I remember my grandma, my great-grandma, I want to say, something like that, in Texas. Her boyfriend, like, was an older gentleman, but had a PlayStation with Tomb Raider. Like,
really?
Yeah, now... I don't want to take a guess if he thought it was just fun as a puzzling game or if he was creeped out or he was being really creepy with Lara Croft. I don't know. But I remember going over there and I was like, in my 10-year-old brain or whatever, holy shit, you have a PlayStation. That's awesome. And I remember just playing that But again, like the weird thing was like my cousins were there, but it wasn't like their stuff. Like, we just kind of went over to his house. He happened to have a PlayStation and all the kids
just kind of hijacked it.
Exactly. We just kind of hijacked it while family spent time doing, family things like talking, and meanwhile, kids are in the room like, man, fuck all that talking stuff.
Playing with the
exactly.
games,
we're playing with this PlayStation. Now I look back and again, like, as an adult, you think like, man, with family, you want to talk to them because who knows how long they'll be around. Meanwhile, I'm like,
as
I'm
a
gonna
kid,
play
who gives a shit?
Exactly.
Yep.
I was just like, oh well, yeah, I'm just gonna go do this and everything.
Yeah.
So, as far as it goes, though, so did you ever have any brothers or sisters growing up to play games with?
Yeah, my younger brother, he's 4 years younger than I am. And so growing up, we always had pretty similar interests. We were at just that age gap, though, that we would get at each other's throats pretty easily. But when we were playing games, we had a lot of fun. So anytime we were over at my aunt's with the Super Nintendo, he was always my player, too, when we were playing stuff. So we would have the ones that always stood out were Mario Kart, Kirby Superstar. That was a real big one for us. Playing Tetris, playing Dr. Mario, that kind of stuff. And then as we grew up, we got into like Tony Hawk and we would play more, stuff like that. NBA Street was a big one I remember playing. But yeah, it was always nice to have him similar enough to me so that we could play games like that. And then once we got into like Game Boy stuff, we would always have, I'd have this Pokemon game, he'd have the other one, and, we'd be almost competing in that regard. So,
how close were you in age?
4 years. So he's 4 years younger than I am.
Younger, okay.
Yep.
I mean, because, at certain ages, like, depending on the age difference, it can be really cool or really bad. Like, I've talked to people who have had, like, brothers that were, like, 10 years younger, and I'm like... Yeah. You're just into completely different shit. Like,
yeah, exactly. There's no connection there other than, familial.
Right. Like, we live in the same house. We have the same mom and dad. Exactly. Cool. But like, when I'm 14, you're 4. Like, you're a fucking baby.
Yeah, there's no common ground there.
Exactly. So, I mean, having the 4 year difference isn't as bad. Like, that one's at least definitely closer. I mean, my sisters and I were a year, 2.5 years apart. But again, they weren't into any of the shit that I was. They were into completely different things. So,
and I totally lucked out with my brother because, like, growing up, we're brothers. There's gonna be fights and arguments and all that kind of stuff. But like nowadays, me and him are so similar that I wouldn't change anything. Like, he is the wittiest person I've ever met, and so me and him make fun of each other all the time. Throwing quips back and forth. But like, it's cool because we're into our own little sects of gaming. So like for me, I'm into the stuff that I'm in, and then he's into totally opposite stuff. So we have this little bit of like a back and forth rapport of like giving each other a little bit of knowledge that we didn't have. So it's cool to be able to have similar enough likes that there's that common ground, but different enough where we can learn from each other too.
Right. No, I mean, and yeah, like I said, I mean, you're not that far apart to where, like, especially with school and stuff like that, it's not like when you get to high school, you get to that part where you're like, yeah, I mean, you're a freshman, I'm a senior. That's like the big divide. Like, it's so funny because, like, before high school, that divide's not really there, it seems like. But then as soon as you get to high school, you're like, oh, you're a freshman, I'm a senior. Yeah. Or I'm already out. Like,
yep, exactly.
Yeah. I think that's when, instead of being like a grade, like, it's like a grade number, it's like a class. Like, oh, you're a freshman. Yeah. That's where it gets like dividing and weird, but whatever. As far as it goes with games, like, were your parents encouraging, or were they kind of the parents that were like, go out and do something better with your life besides sit inside?
It's kind of both. I would say leaning more towards going outside, but that was more when we were younger. It was cool though, because growing up, my dad actually contributed a lot to our gaming stuff. So like, he was the first console I ever got, which is probably one of my favorite memories ever. We had like I said, going over to other people's places and playing stuff, but never really had our own console. And when I was really young, I don't even know if my younger brother was born yet. If so, he was like infant level, but he had an old NES that he never plugged in. I never even really knew he had. But he was like, you know what? Let's go take all this stuff, all these games, this NES. Let's get you the new thing. Let's go get you a new console. I was like, oh, cool, that's awesome. And so we took all his old NES stuff, and I don't know, nowadays I would have kicked him in the dick for it because like that's such cool shit to have. But as a kid, I was like, oh, I just want that new thing. And so we took it to Funcoland, if you remember that.
I sure do.
Took it to a Funcoland, and I remember distinctly walking in. He had this big plastic tote of all of it. He brought it up on the counter. The guy went through all of it, scanned it all in, and we ended up having enough for one of the new consoles. And I shit you not, dude, it was like out of a movie. I can't be more than 4, looking straight up behind the counter, up on the wall, and like if it was a movie, the camera would pan up and see it, and the lights would dim, and the spotlight would be on both the N64 and the PS1.
And it would go, oh.
Exactly. And I had this choice. I had this existential choice at 4 years old of, holy shit, what console do I have to pick? And so I ended up picking the PS1 and had Crash and Spyro and Tony Hawk and all these games that I grew up with. But the thing that I enjoyed a lot with my dad was we always loved to play the Hot Shots golf games. He wasn't big into games, still isn't. Like he'll play, like Bejeweled kind of shit on his iPad, but like not actual games. But anytime a new Hot Shots golf game came out, we will always pick it up, and it was so much fun because it was really the only time I would ever bond over this thing that I would really like that he would do as well. So that was cool to have that. There was some other ones. When I got my first Game Boy, I think I got Pokemon Red with it. He would play that with me, and that was cool. But it wasn't like as much as those Hot Shots golf games. That was where we would really bond over that. But past that, my parents never really, I wouldn't say supported it, but it was more of like, don't sit behind that all day. Go outside, do whatever, go play with friends. Until I got a little older into like middle school and high school, and it was like that's when the Xbox Live stuff started coming around, and that became my social interaction with my friends. Instead of going out and hanging out with friends, it was going online and just talking to them all night. And there was a bit of a divide there where it took them a little while to realize, oh, okay, even though he's not going outside and, fucking around in the forest with his friends, he's still talking to them. He's still having fun. He's still having these interactions that are necessary to grow up.
Right.
So it took them a little bit to get used to that, but they finally kind of caught on and were fine with it.
And that's the one thing, like, I keep, as a person who plays games and knows all about that, that's the one thing that's hard for a certain generation to understand. Like, for example, my son, when he's not fucking up in school and grounded from his Xbox, he plays on his Xbox. And it's gotten to the point now where, like, and I'm in the same boat, though, because I, as a 32-year-old guy with a mortgage and a full-time job and a family, I don't get to go out with my buddies as much as I used to. But I can go on Xbox Live, and even if we're not playing the same thing, I'm just hopping in a party and just fucking talking, right?
Yep.
My wife will say all he does is play Xbox, or he needs to get out of the house and talk to people. I'm like, well, no, you don't understand. He is. Like, he is literally... They were in a game just... And, I mean, he's playing Fallout 4. He's not playing games with anybody else, but he's just in a party conversating with people about just random shit, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's where I'm like... My father-in-law completely doesn't understand. He's just, I mean, what's weird is, like, he has a game console and he understands that you can, like, talk to people. And I'm like, that's how him and his friends go to the park. That's how him and his friends go to the basketball court. Like, we didn't have that luxury, so we actually had to physically leave and go do shit.
Exactly.
Now they have the ability to not have to do that. But you're right. Like, I mean, there's a difference between isolation, sitting in a room, like, not talking to people,
and actually having those social interactions, those conversations, those friendship building moments.
Right, because I still feel that those are definitely an important thing, because you don't want to be that kid who was like homeschooled and had no social interactions with anybody, because you grow up as an adult and you're fucking weird. Like,
100%.
yeah, like you just don't have that social interaction skill. And
yeah, there's certain social cues that you don't pick up on. Whereas, if you're sitting there bullshitting with friends for 7 hours a day, like you get used to interacting with other people.
Right. And I mean, that's where I think it's really important to have those types of social interactions. Again, like my wife, I just told him, like, no, you don't get it. He is talking to people. Like, he's just doing it that way. But I'm right there with you with Funcoland, dude. Like, man. So, like, so where I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, which is a fucking dump. It is a dump. It is still a dump. If you fucking look up dump in the dictionary, Rockford, Illinois is there. And I don't care who hears it, right? I'm sorry. Like, it's not that great of a city. I grew up there. I'll always have fond memories of it, but, like, it's not a good place, really. Anyways. Where I grew up on the ghetto side of it. So I grew up in, family was very poor, didn't have a lot of money and all that.
Yeah.
And I remember every year we would go to Texas for a month to visit my grandma and my mom's family and all that stuff. And I remember my grandma was like, I saw this cool place that I drove by that I think you'll like. And she took me to Funcoland.
Oh, man.
And I had a mini heart attack. Like, I walked into the place.
Kid in the fucking candy store.
You're like, this is
a Willy Wonka moment.
Crazy. Like, there's a Nintendo sign and a Game Boy sign in the window, and then you go in there and there's fucking wall-to-wall video games. And this was before GameStop turned into a fucking Think Geek store where you just had Funko Pops everywhere.
It was like actual games and accessories. Right. Like, I remember, and this is like a weird, like, hazy memory, but like actually walking into Funcoland and they had a bin of NES zappers that were like 15 cents a piece or whatever, but like a fucking bin of them just sitting there. Like, you don't get that at GameStop. Like, it's all prim and proper and nice, but like that was like, it was almost gross in a way. It was like flea market-y a little bit, but like it had like a heart to it.
Right. I remember like going there and like, they had like the page, and you tear the page off and you can see all the trade-in prices. And like,
100%. I remember that.
I remember just going there and losing my mind. And I remember that was where my grandma got me my Genesis. Like, when we went in there, like, she was like, hey, here's your Genesis I had the OG Genesis. Like, I had the old school one that had like the fucking headphone volume slider on the side, which I never knew anyone to ever use ever. But yeah, like I had that, and I remember just going in there, just fucking losing it.
Oh yeah.
Not realizing that I'm a moron, and that in Rockford, where I lived, there was a Funcoland on the other side of town. I was a dumb kid and didn't
connect.
It's not like we didn't have the fucking internet to just look.
Exactly.
So like, we were just driving to some restaurant, and all of a sudden I'm like, like I had a fucking heart attack. I thought
conniption
Funcoland
fit. Yeah.
Right, I thought Funcoland was some Texas thing, not knowing that shit's everywhere, and I'm like, oh my god, there's a Funcoland right there. So, and of course, as you get older, it turns into EB Games and Babbage's. No. So now it's kind of sad though, because now if you go into a GameStop, it's at least half games, but then half fucking Funko Pops and Overwatch Nerf guns and T-shirts. I'm like,
and I'm not upset about it necessarily, but it's so weird coming from, growing up, there was I grew up in Clarkston, Michigan, which is like halfway in between Detroit and Flint. Okay. And I still live in this area, but when I grew up, they built a new, like, basically plaza that had a big grocery store and a bunch of all little small stores next to it. And EB Games was one of them that got put in there. And it was like maybe a mile walk from home.
Oh my God.
And so, I would always, anytime a new game would come out, or even in the summers when me and my friends are fucking around, we'd walk around, go get snacks at Kroger and just look at games that we didn't have and wanted to pick up. And so, it was always cool to have that space of, this is like almost like a land of mystery. But then growing up, you get all this digital stuff, which I'm basically mostly digital at this point. And then like, I don't ever really want to go out and buy a physical copy of anything, or like ever be in a store in the first place for games. So like, I'm not necessarily upset about it. It's more of like that nostalgia of like, that kind of sucks that won't be around anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing for me is like, how did you hear about GameStop's new return policy thing?
I did, yes.
Which, by the way, like, personally, my buddy was like, "That's stupid." I think it's brilliant for a couple things. One, it gets people to go buy the game there instead of anywhere else. Two, if you go actually return it. By the way, if people aren't aware, GameStop has a thing now where certain games, they will have like a guaranteed to love it thing where in 48 hours, if you don't like it or whatever, you could basically return the game, get full price back in store credit. So essentially you're not losing anything if you go do that.
Yeah, the only thing you'd be losing is tax.
Right. Basically,
I mean, even then it's, a couple bucks.
Which is what it would cost you to rent it at a red box if you wanted to. So anyway, like, it doesn't matter on that, but like, they are basically doing that to, number one, make you not buy digital, make you go into a GameStop, and then if you do happen to return it within 48 hours, you get store credit, which means you're forced to use that money still at GameStop.
In their area.
I thought it was brilliant, but also it's a sign of, like,
they're desperate.
Yeah, like, that's a last-ditch effort, because, like, I also found it funny. Shocker, GameStop isn't going to carry the Xbox One all-digital edition. I wonder why.
No way.
I wonder why.
Go figure.
I remember I looked that up. I was like, Walmart, Amazon, Best Buy are all carrying it. And GameStop's like, no, because GameStop relies solely on games as a business, whereas Amazon and Best Buy and Walmart, they're like, okay.
And that hurts their bottom line. It's almost an insult to themselves to hold it.
Exactly, yeah. And that's why I was shocked when, like, certain things they were starting to carry, like digital codes and shit. I'm like, wow, you guys actually.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing that's cool, I will say, you can go there and buy a digital code for a specific dollar amount of Xbox money, which I think is phenomenal.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Like,
I didn't know that.
Like, I had a gift card. After trading some shit in there, I had a gift card of like 18 something. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I want. And she's like, you have Xbox, right? She goes, I can just give you $18 in Xbox money. I'm like, that's the fucking greatest idea.
That's really cool.
I know. I was like, wish everybody did this. So I think it's up to like $50 or $100. They can give you like any denomination of Xbox.
That's really rad. Because, growing up, I was with the 360 where you had Microsoft points and you had to spend
Microsoft points. That was the worst.
That was the worst. So I was always hoping that they would do something like that where it's like, oh, okay, I've got all these games. I just want to trade them in and like just do it for this amount so I can buy whatever the fuck I want on my digital instead of having to buy the actual physical thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, I mean, and so I wish more would do that, but I mean, like, yeah, I saw that guaranteed to love it thing, and then fucking Xbox goes full on like, hey, here's an all digital console, and I'm like, dude, this is not good for GameStop. But at the same time, like, I mean, there's things though that are like physical, for example. Certain games I'll buy digital only because of game sharing with my son. It makes it way easy.
Yeah.
If I went to buy one copy of the game and I know I'm going to love it and he's going to play it and we're not going to trade it in. But like, I still buy physical for a lot of things because I have that Gamers Club discount through Best Buy still.
Oh, really?
I have it through like 2022 or something. I stocked up when there was some sale on it. I fucking stocked up because I was like, well, I'm going to continue to buy games for the next 5 years. I basically have it until my son's like a junior in high school.
There you go.
But like certain things, for example, like the physical side of things is nice because it's nice to have. But dude, before the show started, we talked about being lazy with me and my Alexas in my house. You know how easy it is just to hit a fucking button and a game starts. And you don't have to get up and swap the disc. It's the greatest thing ever.
I think I only own... I think I could count the amount of games I own physical on two hands at this point. Like, some of them I think I have 2 or 3 on Switch because they're just huge games and I don't want to put that on my SD. But then, like, I think the only other one that I got was... I can't remember what it was, but it was for my Xbox, and I got it because... I had gift cards at Best Buy or whatever. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to pick something up that way. Like, I would infinitely rather have something digital because it's so easier to mess with. It's less space, which is, kind of ironic because I collect physical comic books and vinyl records and like that
you
takes
can't
up
have
a bunch
comic
of space.
books and games though, dude. Come on, you don't have
well,
that
exactly,
big a house.
And that's the thing is like I only have so much room on my shelf for all these comic books, and if I'm getting more games, that's taking up that room. So
right.
But yeah, it's so much easier, and like even when you look at like vinyl records or comic books, like those things to me are a different experience than getting up and picking up a disc and putting it into my Xbox to play something. Like to me, I don't have any issue reading something in a physical copy or throwing on a vinyl on a record player and listening to it that way. I feel like that there's something you get out of that it's a different feeling than reading it digital or listening to something on your phone. Like there's you get something special there, even if it isn't a crazy amount. There's still something. Whereas there is no difference between putting a disc in and
fucking
digital,
nothing.
and like I would so much rather play digital. It's so much easier. It's so much cleaner. It's so much less clutter, and like sometimes it's a little extra. In comparison, you could probably get some stuff cheaper physical, but like even then, I don't really care because a lot of times you're giving that money straight to the developers too, instead of it being used or being secondhand or whatever it is. So
yeah, I'm kind of in the boat where the whole physical thing. Only thing I get, I still like said buy physical, but also if I plan to trade it in, like I'm one of those people that I don't keep a lot of shit. Like
I totally get that.
I don't keep a lot of things. Although I will tell you on Switch, I almost refuse to buy digital. And
why is that?
So the only reason why is because Nintendo needs to get their online shit together first.
Yeah, I get that
to
for
do
sure.
it because as a person who has more than one Switch, because
I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
The digital side of thing is a fucking joke.
Nightmare. Yeah,
it's a joke. Not only like for the cloud save thing, do you have to have Nintendo Online? Which, by the way, shout out to them for not fucking raping people for the online thing.
And honestly, I kind of like it.
It's good.
For $20 and you get this backlog of all these cool NES games that you can play. Like, I'm totally fine with that. I don't even really play games online there. So I'm totally cool with that.
By the way, I would have it for Tetris 99 alone. Fucking
that
game
too.
is beautiful.
Oh man, so good.
But like that system, for example, the cloud save thing also doesn't support every game, which is fucking nonsense.
It doesn't?
Splatoon 2, my daughter plays the shit out of it. It will not transfer.
Kidding
no,
me.
it's a fucking Nintendo game and it won't transfer. So I basically had to tell my daughter, this is the Switch you have to play Splatoon on because you can't transfer the data.
Wow, that's surprising. I thought it was just once they added it, it was for everything.
No,
I didn't know
like unfortunately, Nintendo. Again, that's one of those reasons I don't go digital. But the other thing too is I bought Rocket League digital for Switch because it was like stupid cheap and. The way it treats digital games is insane. On Xbox, game sharing works perfect.
Yeah.
My son can play everything that I own without me being logged into his Xbox. Yeah, all that. It works great. The way it works on the Switch, if my digital copy is on both Switches, if the non-home console tries to play it, it literally connects to the internet.
The other one off.
Yeah, it makes sure the other one's not playing that game. And if it is, it closes it. I'm like, what?
Doesn't the PlayStation do something similar to that?
No. Like
I could have swore it did.
PlayStation and Xbox, the way they do their game sharing, if you set it up right, it will always, like, my son has full access to everything digital, even if it's not online. Now, the way you have to set it up, though, like, my system, my Xbox that I primarily play on, if the internet's down, I can't play anything digital.
Can't do anything.
I'm fucked. But my son can play everything. It's just the way you set it up. But like, there's no right way to set it up digitally on the Switch for it to work right. Like, there's no way. So, and the thing that sucks is the Switch is literally the perfect digital console. Like,
oh man,
it's fucking portable.
It's so good. It's so good.
But like, also how Nintendo treated the Wii store, how they were just like,
true.
I'm like, that's way too quick. That's really bumming out to a lot of people. Dude, the system's not 30 years old. It's like 10, and you're already like, yeah, fuck this store. We're done. Like 15.
Yeah, but the way I looked at it too is, it does suck. I'm not going to take that away from anybody, but it was one of those things of like, I can't remember how long it's been since I ever plugged in a 360,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. The only reason that I ever go back to play my Super Nintendo games is that I have them sitting on a shelf right now, and then I can plug it in, and it's right then and there.
Of course.
Any of the games that I wanted to play on those old consoles, I have on one of the new ones, or I can pull up on the PC, or whatever it is, and it's not like they're lost forever unless you're one of the collectors where you're getting real specific into like those niche things, and that's where it's like, okay, that's a little.
I mean, I think like my brother-in-law, who's a very big Nintendo fan, will also call Nintendo out on their bullshit, and he's kind of in the same boat where he's just like, dude, my Wii cannot re-download anything. If my Wii fucks up, I just lost every virtual console game I bought, and I'm like, that's really shitty. Like, that's I think
shitty. Also too, I'm in the mindset too that it's, I've bought these things, but they're not permanent. Like 10, 15, 20 years down the road, I'm not going to, most likely not going to be able to play them. And I don't think I have an issue with that. There's some where it's going to kind of suck, but at the same time, like,
it's not something that like you think about daily. Like,
exactly. And I'm also,
like, I want to play this. Oh, fuck.
Yeah. And I guarantee you at that point, it'll be the same situation where we can play, old shit that's been re-released, or, like with the PS5 rumors that they're going to be backwards compatible. Like, right. I'm sure that will be more available in the future in that regard, and I don't think that's going to be that big of an issue. Because, I'm already not feeling like it's that much of an issue. So,
yeah, I mean, I like with a lot of games that are going to be coming out. There's a lot of games that. I mean, how many fucking remasters of Sega Genesis collections are there?
Oh my god.
If you really want to play fucking Sonic 1, 2, and 3, you can. Mm-hmm. Like, you just gotta go find it. But now it's getting to the point where the only thing that can be beneficial with the all digital is the fact that the old stuff, like, they can easily remaster old stuff and put it digital and you can have access to it as long as those stores stay up. Like, that's the only thing is, like, the stores just need to stay up for a good amount of time in case shit hits the fan. Like, 360 store isn't dead. Even though the console has been dead for, let's say, not dead, but like pretty much done for the last, 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
They still have the store up. You can still go download. And I mean, they're even, like when they did the backward compatibility thing, that was the smartest thing Xbox ever did, by the way.
Oh, man. They knocked it out of the park that year.
They did it so good. And they still, but I mean, like, servers are still good for 360 games. I mean, per game basis is different, but like overall as a service, Xbox 360 Online is still functioning.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas Nintendo, like, and I mean, of course they did kill the original Xbox, live servers, like those are dead, but I think that took 15, 16, 17 years, something like that. Yeah. And I think Nintendo is just so quick to be like, I think too, the Wii wasn't built in the mindset of the modern online world. And so, and I mean, the Wii U probably will be better with it, but because of that being such a weird use case, I feel like the Switch, you're never going to have that issue. I feel like the Switch is going to be a totally different situation in regards to, the server stuff, the keeping things online for as long as possible. Now that there's money involved, yeah.
Exactly. Now that there's money and now that they have the experience of, this is how this goes, like this is what this new world is, I don't think they're going to make that mistake again.
I just wish Nintendo didn't take 10 years to realize it.
Like,
that's the only thing I'll applaud Xbox for. They knew. They were just like, this is where everything's going, and they put money into Xbox Live early, and they made people pay for Xbox Live to put more money into it. Like, they knew what the fuck they were doing. Like, and then I like everybody else is all of a sudden like, wait, people pay for your online service? And then PS4 happens. All right, paid online. And then Nintendo Switch happens. Paid online. Like,
that's how the market works, man.
People will fucking pay you to play online, and you get all this money. Like, do it. Like, obviously, Xbox Live is the better of the online services for a reason, because they've been charging for the last 20 years for services. Like, sorry, that's just how.
Well, then, like with I wouldn't call myself a fanboy, and because like I own everything, I've got all the consoles.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
But like, I am so in Xbox's camp because they're doing all the right stuff. Like I subscribe to Game Pass. I can't tell you the last time I downloaded a Game Pass game. Like
I can tell you, I downloaded a shit ton of them.
I downloaded a bunch and played through them, but like I'm still on it because I believe in that service and believe in what they're doing in the future. Like they're just making those smart business decisions, and that's what gives you the ability to, have that best running online service forever. I try to download a game on my PS4 and it takes anywhere between 20 minutes and 20 hours depending on what server it picks up, whereas I'll throw it on my Xbox and 15 minutes later, oh shit, that's 5 gigs downloaded. Like right. It's having those ideas and those dedications to making it the best makes it the best. So
yeah, I'm right there with you though. Like, I mean, everybody's got their own like personal preference on consoles that they like and stuff.
Yeah.
Like overall, I mean, like I said, as far as Xbox Live goes, I only like Xbox and prefer Xbox just because I've had that good online experience since the first one. Like,
exactly.
That's why I like them, and I've always liked them. And obviously, these new consoles are going to be insane. and I can't wait for that. But
well, and this console cycle specifically has been so weird for me because I started off getting not necessarily launched, but like real close to it, the Xbox One.
I did too. And I have a day one
edition. Before that, I was totally all in on PS4. I don't know why I ended up changing to Xbox One. Got that, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I like this a lot. And then started seeing some of the stuff that was coming out on PS4, and I was like, okay, I'll pick one up eventually. Got one a few years later. And then that became my main console, and then ended up being able to trade in my original Xbox, or Xbox One, trade that in towards an Xbox One X, and paid $250 for a brand new Xbox One X.
And it's the greatest thing ever.
It's awesome, dude. I love this thing. It looks great on my TV. I like it because it runs faster than my PS4. Like the UI is faster, even though the UI isn't great on it. It's still like I can get around stuff a lot quicker and nicer than the PS4.
For sure.
And people talk shit about that thing all the time. I'm like, it's totally serviceable for me. But
speaking of like the console wars, did you ever so you chose PlayStation instead of N64?
Yes.
Which I agree with. Some people may not because, well, no, because here's the thing. Like, I think it depends on what you were into at that time, right? Because the thing is that, for example, N64, I've talked about before, they didn't necessarily force you to have a 4-player game, but you fucking had 4 players on every game. Like, they didn't care. They wanted you to have a 4-player mode. So, like, multiplayer-wise, that was the console. PlayStation was, like, the exact opposite, where it's like, they had the two, and they had to get multi-tap. 2-player games, sure, but like they had so many story-driven games, single-player games, Crash, Spyro, Final Fantasy, Metal Gear, like those are all single-player games. Like you're not playing those with multiple people, so it's like they focused on that part of it. So I mean, it just depends on what you were into. But did you have friends that you would play games with who had the opposite? Like, did you ever, or were most of your friends kind of similar with you?
Well, it was weird because growing up, I was really like the only one really into games that I knew.
That sucks.
It's weird, like, because I wouldn't say I was the only one into games. Like, I had plenty of friends who played games and whatever, but, like, I feel like I was in a different stratosphere. Like, I was really into them. I really liked, like, growing up, I started reading more about them and, like, listening to different podcasts and news, and, like, now I get excited by fucking sales data. Like, there's an evolution there, which the other people that played games that I grew up with didn't have that.
Right.
My neighbor that had the NES, we grew up together, and so there was a lot of, like, they had, I think they had a GameCube when we had the PS2, and so, like, that was cool because we had a little bit of, like, back and forth there of, like, oh, we would go over to play that, and then we'd come over to my place to play whatever. But, like, there was never really that urge to go off and look for the other console. Like, if somebody had it, it was cool. But, like, I still, to this day, don't really think I've ever played a ton of N64 games because, like, I never really had friends who had one. I obviously I know people now who have had them, and I've played stuff since then, but, like, I never had those special moments with Ocarina of Time or, playing the early Mario parties and getting the palm ripped out of your hand from the joystick. Like, I never had that experience because I never knew anybody with that.
Thankfully, I got my Mario Party on during GameCube, so I didn't have that.
Same here, man.
I didn't have
GameCube
that, like...
Mario Party's best Mario Parties.
Dude, you know what, though? Go play the Switch Mario Party.
Dude, it's so good.
It's so fucking good.
I'm so happy. Like, obviously, it's not, like, exactly what you want out of it, but I'm so happy it's a return to form of actual Mario Party because I was so disappointed with... Basically, 9 and 10 were the ones that did it weird. Like, 8 was kind of iffy, too. But, like, Mario Party was such a staple growing up with me and my friends because it was, I think, 5, 6...
4, 5, 6 were on
4, 5, 6 were on GameCube. So, yeah, we played mostly 5, some 6. But, like, I can still hear the music of that if I'm thinking about it really hard. And, like, the sound effects of those weird star people when they were talking,
right.
Like, there's so many specific things that really hold a dear place in my heart there that when they tried to go all weird with it and put you all on the same card, it was like, oh man, like I just want more regular Mario Party. And when I saw that they were like possibly doing it right with Super Mario Party, I was like, oh, thank God. Like,
yeah, like when I was like, when I was seeing the reviews on the new Mario Party and they were just like, it's good again. I was like, that's all I needed to hear. Like, I don't need to hear other shit. I'm like, they just said, oh no, it's good again.
Exactly.
I'm like, all right, cool. And, for sure. It's funny because like the whole 64 era, the only thing I didn't necessarily say like I didn't play it or anything, but like I didn't know to do, like everybody in my friends all had this, we had the same thing. So we could basically play Blockbuster with each other and rent each other's games. But like with the N64, I only played like the wrestling games. That's literally like, the only thing I remember really playing on. A Mario Party I didn't play until GameCube. Smash I didn't play till GameCube. And people look at me like, you never played Smash 64? No.
Well, that's like for me, I would always get weird looks when I told people I never played Ocarina of Time, and everybody always had this huge boner for it. And I was just like, I just never played it. And then when it finally came to 3DS, I never had the 3DS at launch, but when I picked one up, I was like, yeah, you know what? I should probably look into this thing. And like, I have probably the most hated hot take of all time now that Ocarina of Time isn't a good game. Like, I can see how it's like a game changer in regards to it's fully 3D and it's like this big open world kind of thing. But like playing it in 2013 when I played it on the 3DS, I did not have fun. I beat it because it was one of those things of like, I feel like I should have this under my belt. But like there was so many things in that game that were just like, this is a nightmare. Like the whole Shadow Temple was pulling my hair out because it was so frustrating. Like I didn't have the issues of the Water Temple that people did, like obviously because that's restrained to the N64, but like it was one of those things that, man, it just did not click with me. But like I never would have had that original experience because I never had anybody around to give me it, you know?
Yeah, as far as it goes, and this is kind of the case with all like some of the older games, right? Because there's games that I missed when I was, I played Ocarina of Time, never beat it, and I still haven't. And I'm not going to say it's bad or good, but also too, I think like, unfortunately, certain games hold a certain sentimental value to you, to where you play them at a certain age, at a pivotal age, and like in your head, 100%. It's the greatest fucking thing of your life. And unfortunately, sometimes you go back to it, and it's fucking bad. Yeah. It's just not good. Like, it's not a good game. But the thing is, too, is you're also looking at it as a game compared to nowadays. Like,
exactly.
Like,
especially 100%.
The 3D games back then, like, they were figuring out shit. They were figuring 100%. Out camera and movement and attacks and speeds. And, like, now everything's refined and shit. Like, that was why I was weirded out when they had the PlayStation Classic come out. Which, by the way, that was not good.
That thing was just such a weird situation.
And you can tell it was weird when they dropped it to like $40 less than 6 months later. But like, the one thing I got weirded out by was when that came out and they put Rainbow Six on it. And I was like, no one fucking remembers Rainbow Six from PlayStation. Like, if you ask somebody, what's your top 20 PlayStation
Vegas
games?
2.
Yeah, you'll say Rainbow Six Vegas on 360 because that was the shit, right?
Oh, God, yeah.
But, like, dude.
Yeah, I would have never... there were some in those that I would have never thought about. Like, and granted, I was a kid playing PS1, but it was also one of those things of, like, even some of those games were, like, leaps and bounds ahead of, you know, like, Cool Borders or whatever, Destruction Derby. Like, those... Why didn't you have, and granted, it's a lot of like licensing, but like, why was there no Crash? Why was there no Spyro? Like, I mean, where was Ape Escape? Like,
yeah, Ape Escape. Well, again, they didn't include DualShock, so that fucked things up too.
And that's the thing is like, that to me is such an oversight on what makes the PlayStation.
Right.
You know, I don't think they got, like with the NES Classic and the SNES Classic, there's a specialty to them because they cherry-picked certain things that give you that nostalgia. Like, some of my favorite SNES games aren't on the SNES Classic, and that's fine because the games that are on it encompass this whole package, this feeling of what it was like to play those games. Right. Like, you're not going to find fucking... Zoop or Mickey Mouse and the Great Circus Mystery, like these weird ass games that I own physically. But when you plug that thing in and pick up a controller, you get the feeling of what that's like. The PS1 though, the PS1 Classic doesn't do that.
No.
You get Metal Gear, you get Final Fantasy VII, but
you can get those on other consoles.
Exactly.
And it's not like that. NES and Super NES classics were literally like it literally was a greatest hits compilation, but it wasn't just like first party stuff. It was literally like, no, they went out and got
whole game.
Like they went out and talked to Square and got licensed to these games. Like, and granted, PlayStation did the same, but the problem is like a lot of PlayStation stuff wasn't their own stuff. Like it was a lot of third party. Whereas if they were to make an N64 classic, it would be 95% first party games. Like it was the opposite.
100%.
Like that's the problem is like the PlayStation Classic, they had to start asking, can we get this game? Can we get this game? And some of those games, but also too, like I was saying earlier, is like you go back and play some of those games and they don't age well at all. Like they're so rough to play. And it's because of all of the above. Graphics were jarring. Controls weren't as good as they are now. But you're comparing everything to today's standards where they've had 15 years, whatever. No, like more than that, 20 years since the 3D gaming revolution happened to where they've refined everything. Like, who goes back and plays Rainbow Six 1 and goes, this is amazing? Like, no one does because it's not a good shooter anymore compared to Siege.
Even other Rainbow Six games.
Right. It's just so strange. Like, but unfortunately, like you saying you didn't like Ocarina of Time, again, you played it now, comparing it to now's standards. And
I think that's what tainted it for me is that, I was trying to go into it with an open mind of like, there's so many people who hold this so dearly and, still to this day are like, it's the greatest game ever created. And I went in with this mind of,
I've been told it's the greatest game ever created.
Been told it's the greatest. Let's see why this is. And coming out disappointed, not because it was hyped up too much, but because it didn't age well. And I think that's what frustrates me when people go, gung-ho about it being the greatest game of all time, is that they're not looking at it without the nostalgia glasses.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong, it's a good game. I'm not taking that away from anybody. That's the amount of wonder that comes out of that game, especially in the time period, is ridiculous. But playing it in a modern day, it's frustrating. And like, you go back and you play Link to the Past, you don't have that issue. Sure, it might have some issues of trying to figure out where you're going, but like, that game you can still pick up today and be like, fuck, this game is good. Same with the original.
Yeah, I think the problem with it is just that, like I've discussed it before on my show, 8-bit, 16-bit hold up better just because the 3D graphics are so jarring and the controls 100%. Are so bad. Like, 2D gaming is a little bit easier just to go back on because it's simpler controls. It's harder to fuck up that. Like, how do you fuck up, down, left, and right? Like, you can't do, the camera angle, like, all of it's a lot more simple, so it's easier to make right. Mm-hmm. And, like I said, I personally thought everything on, like, that's why I think an N64 or a PlayStation Classic wasn't going to be a good idea in general, just because, again, the 3D gaming is such a jarring thing. But, like, 8-bit and 16-bit work perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. Like, they're always good. Like, they're always going to stay good. And also, you notice, like, now there's games like Shovel Knight that come out that
invoke
that style, and they just make it better with like particle physics and just like little like just more shit on screen at once. So it just makes it an enhanced experience rather than like a new game. But like, I just think that whole place, like certain games, for example,
it's a weird era, man.
It is a weird era. And I mean, even PS2 sometimes gets like that. Example.
100%.
I love Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts is one of my favorite franchises. Again, when I was at time growing up, I was like, this is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Now, my buddy went and played it, and he's like, dude, that first Kingdom Hearts camera is fucking trash. And I'm like, really? He's like, it's really bad. I'm like, you're crazy, whatever. Until I personally, as a person who loved that game, went and played the first Kingdom Hearts when it came out on the 1.5, 2.5 collection, and it's fucking bad.
Well, and that was another thing of like, I never got into Kingdom Hearts. Like I tried. I think I rented the first one. And I tried it. I was like, this is cool, but like it's not my kind of thing. And all of my buddies were playing Kingdom Hearts 3, and were like, dude, this is like a fun ass game. But they were also the ones who grew up with it. I was like, you know what? I like the look of it. It looks like it could be cool. I'm gonna pick it up.
Yeah.
And I went through, I think, close to 20 hours maybe, and didn't even hit the frozen level. And I was like, you know what? There's some jank in this game. It was fun, but I think I've run my course. And like, if I had picked that up and like actually got into it as a kid, I think it would totally have been different. But like the fact that now it still feels like one of those old weird jank games, like it just didn't make me want to complete it 100%.
Yeah, like I'm a big Kingdom Hearts fan, obviously. I like the like I was cool with all of it, but also too at the same time, I'm one of those people like, if you want to get into Kingdom Hearts now, it's kind of like, it's harder. And I'm not saying the game's bad or you have to like the old ones to like the new one, because, you know, story-wise, good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Story-wise, as a person who loves Kingdom Hearts, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I'm trying to remember all this.
Yeah.
But like gameplay-wise, I was like, this is fun. But again, I had that nostalgia of it reminding me of 1 and 2. Like, these are great games. And I'm not, you know, like I said, some people pick up 3 and go, this is cool. And some people are just like, I don't get it. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, again, some people, certain games bring up that certain memory for them. And like, some people pick it up later, like you did with Ocarina, and just like, like, can't really do
this. I totally feel like that. If somebody nowadays were to pick up Halo 3,
it's rough. And I'm not even saying it's bad.
I just went back and played it the other day and still have so much fun because that holds such a special place in my heart.
Correct.
Like,
but then when you can't run, you're like,
exactly, you can't run. You can't like scope in, and if you're getting shot, like,
yeah, no,
you know, you're so floaty and heavy. Like it's a weird feeling game. But as somebody who grew up and like that, that's probably to this day still in my top 5 games of all time, probably top 3. Like it still holds so much in my heart, but like I would never suggest anybody like, oh, you want a good shooter, this is the one you got to play, unless they're like,
compared to nowadays, it's not as good. And I'm not saying it's bad, it's just not as good. Like that was the thing that fucked me up, man. I got fucked up when I went to go play Master Chief Collection, and I'm like, cool, click. Why am I not running?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, run wasn't around. Like fuck.
But I tell you what, you get used to it, you play it. There are some stuff in that game that if you were playing that game like we did when I was growing up with 4 people in co-op, or playing with 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 people in custom games or whatever, like the level of camaraderie that you build out of that and the stuff that you remember. I have a vivid memory painted in my mind from there's 2 of them sleeping over at a friend's house. I was the first one to have an Xbox 360 and have Halo 3. And so I brought it over and was like, guys, you have to see this. This shit is ridiculous. And we stayed up for hours playing on Last Resort Zanzibar, like just fucking around. Like, oh my God, we didn't know anything, but we were still having fun because it was this crazy new world. And then when the original, I think it was the first, maybe second map pack came out for it, they did a remake of Avalanche from Halo 1. And I remember so vividly playing with friends, and they had these huge like grav lift catapult things on the sides of the map. My buddy was behind me. I was in front of him, running up, jumped on one of those things to jump out into the map, and he had the rocket launcher. So he was like behind me, but right above me on the arc, and there was one of the warthogs driving toward our area. He shoots it, nails it, perfect timing. It explodes, but explodes from the back, and the physics launch it and splat through both of us as we land. And we laughed so hard, I'll never forget that moment the rest of my life. Like, I can still see it so perfectly, and it's moments like that built that whole game for me. Like, there's such a heart to those social interactions you build out of that, and that goes back to what you were talking about with your son of like, that was me, finding, shit in the woods with my friends. Like, that's that was those social interactions. That was those memories that I'll never forget. And like, that's why that game is so special. And I'm sure the people who love Ocarina as much as they do have those same kind of feelings, but because I played it so late, it didn't click with me like that.
No, I completely understand that. I will say Halo 2, the one memory, I think I've shared it with the show. My buddy Jared and I, who still played Purdue when Halo 5 came out, I think we put 900 hours or something.
Holy shit.
We played, dude, it was like Halo all over again. Halo 5, by the way, fucking great online multiplayer.
Yes, sorry, very, very good.
Literally the most fun I had in a long time. Anyways, we were playing with this game, or playing a game with this guy, and we were just fucking running shit. It was Blood Gulch, it was Capture the Flag. We were just fucking decimating a team, made him look like just babies. And we were fucking flying in a Warthog on this jump. And you get that like moment where all four wheels in the air and you're like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Yep.
And I remember just saying like, Stallone, you're the fucking best, because his name was Stallone.
Yeah.
And then like, I called him Stallone for the whole fucking match. I was like, yeah, Stallone, let's go. And I just thought about Rambo, and I was like, yeah. At the end of the match, like, we're in the lobby, and I'm like, fuck yeah, Stallone, that was awesome. And then you hear this like soft voice just go, my name is Stallion. And I couldn't fucking stop. I was like peeing myself laughing. I was like, and my buddy Jared and I, so like now again, it's like that callback when we play online multiplayer and we're doing well. We're like, Stallone! Like, fucking, again, those weird little moments, but like, dude, the best part was just like,
it's
it
those,
wasn't a manly
like,
voice.
I'll never forget seeing Turkish Chug Jobs join the game one time. And I no scope JFK, like these
Jesus
names that like
Christ.
you'll never forget as long as you live, because they're cemented in that moment of you with your friends. Like it's so good.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Did you say Turkish Tug Jobs?
Turkish Tug Jobs. Yep.
Oh my God,
that's the first one. The first time I ever remember seeing an online name and realizing, oh shit, you could do something funny with these things.
It doesn't have to be like functional.
Exactly. And man, that one, I think that was probably the first one. And then I know Scope JFK really got me.
Oh my God.
Because that was like, that was Halo 3 kind of Call of Duty 4 era. I can't remember which one it was, but either way, still really funny to me. But yeah, and that was like some of my friends kind of like ended up trying to make a bunch of names like that, and ended up getting their names banned and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's stuff like that that's like, man, that's those moments that you love. That's those moments you'll never forget.
My buddy, I had a couple friends, my buddy Tom, his was just the worst. It was like Tom and your mom, Tom and your mouth.
Yep.
Like he just, of course, and every time he'd get banned, he'd come up with a new one. Like there was a couple of them that I remember, like the ultimate gamer story or gamer tag story is one of my best friends from Illinois. His name is Mike. And he's a fucking asshole if he's listening to this, but he's fine. So I made a poor decision. 360 came out, right? And everybody's like, dude, we're getting 360. Halo 3 is going to come out. It's going to be fucking awesome. And I go, I'm going to get a Wii instead.
Oh, no.
Now, I made this decision thinking my wife would play Mario Party and WarioWare with me, and she didn't really play the 360 or anything. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to get this, and then I'll get a 360 down the road. Apparently, as I made that decision, my buddy Mike got his Xbox 360, and in the process made his gamer tag, I hate Mitch Power. That is his gamer tag. Now, I didn't find out this until a year later when I got my Xbox.
That's so good.
And I asked my buddy.
That's the long con right there.
And I asked my buddy, hey, my brother-in-law, hey, what's Mike's gamer tag? And he just responded with, you don't want to know. And I'm like, what the fuck what are you talking about? And then he told me, and I'm like, you got to be shitting me. I messaged Mike immediately. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you do that? And he's like, dude, you pissed me off, man. I was literally in the process of picking my gamer tag, and you fucking sent that message. So that's what I did. I've offered to pay him the money to change it. He won't do it. He then made his
Still has it. He
made his gamer tag or his PlayStation name that, where you couldn't fucking change it for the longest time.
What a fucking legend.
And it's so good. Again, I love Mike to death. I call him an asshole because I love him. But like, the best was when we would be in a game together and you would see Mitch Power 1116 and I Mitch Power, and people were like, "That's fucking gold! Like that's great,
amazing."
Yeah, and people ask him, and he just goes, "Yo, fuck that guy." Like that's people don't know me. He just goes, "Yo, man, fuck that guy." So again. Thanks, Mike. I've had him on the show. He's a great person, though. But yeah,
so good.
Yeah,
that's a fantastic story.
Yeah, he's a good best friend. Sure, fucker. Like at first, I was all sorts of angry, and then I was like, "It's funny. Who gives a shit?"
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's the best ones of those where it's like at first you're kind of pissed off, and then you realize I can't really be mad. That's really fucking funny.
Great. And again, like he won't change it. And again, like he has like a popular podcast now where like. He has like a following online, and like if people want to know his gamer tag, he has to fucking say that. And then the best part is every time he says it, it starts the conversation. Who's Mitch Power, and why do you hate him so much to where you made your gamer tag?
Such a long con. That is the long game. Textbook. So fucking good.
Yeah. So it's okay, Mike Bachman. You're a class act, asshole. As far as it goes, so like you had mentioned 360. You had mentioned so. Were you to a point though where you were like one console for a while there, or were you kind of like when you got to like because obviously you said 360? Did you get PS3 or Wii or anything?
I did. So my family got a Wii when those were real popular. We didn't really play too much on it though. But no, I got the 360 when it would have been Halo 3, so I would have been starting 8th grade.
Okay, around
that time, and I wanted everything. Don't get me wrong, but 8th grade, you don't have any fucking.
You don't
months.
have a choice, right?
I didn't end up getting a PlayStation 3 until 2012-ish when I had my own job and everything and was paying for my own shit. Once I did, I ended up getting all the classics for that and played through those, and that was fun. But no, I was never one who was like diehard one console or anything. I mean, except for when I was playing 360, but that's because everybody else was playing it.
Right. That was a kind of like, I knew people that didn't like Xbox, but still got a 360 just because like the online part of it was such a dominance, such
revolutionary in comparison to anything else.
Right.
But no, I like I said, I grew up. I had Super Nintendo and PlayStation 1 and Game Boy, and I had a PSP that was probably my favorite handheld of all time. Actually, funnily enough, that's my first ever online gaming moment was SOCOM Fireteam Bravo 2
on PSP. Wow.
And I was so into it that the people that I met, I was actually still friends with one of the guy on Facebook that I think he was 16 when I was like 12 or whatever, but we played this like full on like clan matches, like leaderboards online, like the full deal up till like 6 a.m. kind of shit. And that I still hold that in real high regard. That was such a fun time. But yeah, that's funnily enough. Yeah. My first online was on a handheld. But yeah, I was never like a staunch, like I'm an Xbox guy or whatever. Like it's always been to me, like I just like games in general. So like, right now I've got hooked up into my TV. I've got a Super Nintendo, PS4, Switch, Xbox One X, and then I'm on my gaming PC that I built. Like it to me, it doesn't matter as long as the game is cool.
Yeah, I think the whole, like people who say like, fuck Sony, I'll never own a PlayStation. You're doing yourself a disservice because there's literally like games on PlayStation
so much
4
cool
that are
shit.
Fucking
There's
great.
So much cool shit.
Yeah, if you don't own all of the above now, it's harder to fully say, I won't say fully say you're a gamer because that doesn't make you a gamer owning all of them, but like to fully enjoy all of what gaming has to offer.
Yep, exactly.
It's impossible to not do it unless you have all of them. The only thing I'll say lately is it's sad to say, but also cool at the same time. You don't necessarily need to own an Xbox anymore only because all the first party shit's going to PC. So again, it's not a bad thing. Like
exactly.
I was so blown away when when people made that
it was
thing.
ridiculous.
Well, when people were like, why would I buy an Xbox? Like, by the way, Microsoft makes money on games, not fucking consoles.
And that's the thing. For me, I have both gaming PC and my Xbox One X, and for me, the biggest thing is a lot of times I don't want to sit at a desk and play a PC game when I could sit comfortably in a chair, watching my TV playing with a controller comfortably.
Of course.
Like, to me, there's no, it's not a lesser, it's a different experience.
Right.
So like, I have on my PC, I've got, all these different kinds of games that I can play on here. I've played with friends, whatever. But like, some of them I have on my Xbox, and like, I would much rather playing it there because it's more like serene and relaxed. Like, when I played Crackdown 3, I would have never played that game on a PC because that is such a zone out, have a video on YouTube or listen to a podcast and like turn your brain off and play.
Right.
That's not comfortable to me when I'm doing WASD and a mouse. Like there's a difference there in just the fundamental experience that you have.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, it's just a matter of giving them choice. But like, I was like, when people were saying like, oh, this is stupid, why would they? I'm like, you're not understanding that them selling games is what makes them money, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you don't obviously understand that. Real quick, 2 days ago, Microsoft became $1 trillion company. I think they know what the fuck they're doing. Yeah, they're officially $1 trillion company. Them, Amazon,
and that's the thing
Apple.
too. Like people shit all over Xbox One X or just Xbox One in general that it lost, but like it's not a failure either. There's still at least 30 million consoles out there for it. Like that's not any number to scoff at.
They're selling more than they did the generation before on the same pace of cons. Like it's again like people can have opinions and that's fine. Everybody can shit on whatever they want to shit on. That's fine. But I don't think, like I said, also too in a way, when you get your face kicked in, you push to make shit way better, way faster. And if Microsoft was still winning, right? If Microsoft was still winning, would we have backward compatibility? Would we have Game Pass? Would we have any of these like innovations that they're trying to do to make shit better? Like when you're, unfortunately, it tends to happen where if you are so dominant the console before, you're gonna get your face kicked in the next one. Unfortunately, it doesn't. It's a weird cockiness. Like example, PS2 fucking blew up, took over the world. Sony thought they could do whatever they wanted. PS3 came out. They said it was $600. They said you'll get a second job to buy it, and everybody was like, "Yo, fuck you. We're not doing this." 360 dominated a life cycle. They were amazing. They came out with Xbox One. They thought they could do no wrong, and they fucked up.
And see, that I think is the thing that I am most excited about. Not necessarily about the next console cycle, but the one after that. Because I have a feeling that Xbox is going to take this next one, maybe not as much as everybody thinks, but I think they're going to be the dominating force there. But it's after that. If Xbox does end up coming out ahead, do they fall into the same routine that they did or that Sony did? But like right now, everything that they're doing is like a grand gamer scale thing, like crossplay, Game Pass, cloud stuff. Like it's all like, well, shit, this is just like good for gaming as a whole. Right. So like, I'm really excited to see what happens in that regard, like even past the next console cycle. Right. And then again, like it seems like if you have a great one, you fuck up, but then you come back and you're right again. Example, I won't say it was great, but it just sold 100 million consoles. Oh, yeah. It was unstoppable. Right. And then Wii U happened, which was a fucking blip on the radar, and now Switch is back and just killing Switch is one of the best consoles I've ever owned. Switch down. It sucks because, like, I won't say the Switch is a bad console. I don't play it often enough, only because, like, I would say most of the things I've played on it have been the first-party shit. Mario, Zelda, Mario Party, Mario Tennis, all that stuff. When it comes to like certain games though, like again, like especially when you have like an Xbox One X, like I mostly play at home. So it's like cool. If I have an option of playing this game on a Switch or an Xbox One X, what the fuck do you think I'm going to do? Like I'm not going to play it on Switch. Now, portable wise, like I don't travel that much. I don't commute. I actually work from home. So it's like, oh really? Okay. Yeah. So it's like, I just don't play it that often, but the games that are on Switch are good enough to fucking own one. Like, well, Breath and that's the thing too is are like amazing games, and everybody should fucking play them. Yeah, and, like for me, it ended up being where any of the cool like, I guess indie stuff, the whole indie scene is
on Switch is phenomenal. Like,
well, and that's the thing. I just go through Switch now. Like, if it comes out on Switch and it's cool, like 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna pick it up because it's such a perfect fit for that, I think. Whereas the other consoles, they've got a specific like a designation for them. Like, those are the bigger, badass, like the powerful ones. Whereas with the Switch, it's the stuff that's gonna make you really happy deep down inside you, but like doesn't really need all that horsepower.
Well, again, in any game, it's not like, example, Cuphead. It's not like Cuphead on the Switch or Xbox One X are vastly different. They're
nope,
the same
not at all.
Game. Like, those are the games that you should get on Switch because if you do go on the go, it is literally that same experience on the go.
Exactly.
So it's great for that type of stuff.
Yep.
Like, I'm taking a trip to Minnesota and Illinois in June, and I am like thankful I have those Switches because like I'm gonna play something if my kids don't snatch both of them on the plane. But yeah, I'm gonna be playing something on that because, like I said, I mean, if you like, for example, we had talked about going to like the Kind of Funny meet and greets and shit. Mm-hmm. When I went to that meet and greet, everyone and their goddamn mother had a Switch there. Like,
that's
exactly. And I was like, this is the situation where it's great. This is the one where like.
That was one of my favorite memories of Kind of Funny Live 3 was me and all my friends were sitting in line, and everybody got there early because they wanted to be in line and talk with everybody. But we sat down and everybody had their Switch, so we all played Mario Kart waiting. And a random person...
That would be amazing. That would
a random person walks up, hops in line. We pass them off a Joy-Con because they want to hop in, and loser drops out, passes out to another one, and we just keep rotating. It was so much fun.
See,
like it's a perfect use case for those kind of things.
Yes, that's where I imagine it being the best. However, as a dad who doesn't go anywhere and sits in his house,
exactly.
Not saying the Switch isn't fun, but it's just like it would be way better as a situation where like you go to conventions like that. Like when I went to that meet and greet, I was actually like, fuck, I should have brought my Switch. Because I was just there, like, my kid, it's funny, kid snatched that day too. I took them to their grandparents' house. They're like, can we bring the Switch? So I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And then as soon as I walked in the door of Portillo's, I was like, fuck, the Switch would have been great to have right now because we could have been all playing some shit. So, but no, that's all right. As far as it goes, obviously, I had mentioned before, I wanted to ask you a question. People get a lot of bad games. People get a lot of bad games as a gift, and it's shitty, Like, by the way, were you kind of the kid when you were growing up, it was birthday, Christmas, that was your game time?
Pretty much,
yeah. I mean, that's kind of the case with everybody. I just, some people like to, get games right if they work hard. But the way this question forms is, when people get their own money, they can go and buy whatever the hell they want. What was the one time you bought a game with your own money that you were just severely disappointed in?
So we were talking about this before we started. I have a real bad situation with all my gaming memories. Like I can't nail anything down specific. So the one that came to mind is good because it was just recent. So I didn't have to really look back too far. And it's such a bummer to say because it was part of the Kind of Funny Game showcase, and there was some stuff leading before that. Was like, this game looks really rad. It's called Y2K, a postmodern apocalypse or something along those lines. But it's on the Switch. It's a JRPG-ish with this really cool art style where it's like almost like a papercraft cutout, but in this almost PS1-ish kind of polygon-looking style. But it ran like garbage on the Switch. You know how in JRPGs when you have random battles, you get that like weird screen thing and then it hops you right into the battle?
Right.
I shit you not. I counted. There would be times where I would get into a random battle and it would take 15 seconds to get into the battle.
Jesus.
In a game like that where like all of a sudden you could just hit 3 battles in a row because it's random, like it was such a pain in the ass. And then the worst part is that because it's a postmodern game, the story made absolutely no sense. You're this guy who comes home from college and you're at home and then shit gets weird, and that's fine. I'm cool with shit getting weird. But then it just didn't explain anything. It was all, you go to the store to pick up stuff for your ma, and then this cat walks into the forest and you follow this cat, but then it ends up in this like weird abandoned hotel that you never knew of, even though this is your hometown. And then you go into the abandoned hotel, and then there's this talking panda bear, like stuffed animal that you don't acknowledge. It's talking to you and you're talking back, but it's totally fine. There's no issue there. And then you keep going down into this hotel, and then you go into like this weird dimension with this giant pyramid Illuminati eye, and like it's the weirdest shit that doesn't get explained at all, and it doesn't have any semblance of cohesion. And it was like such a bummer because I was in the mood for a JRPG like that, of like, man, like sitting down, having this really cool story, whatever, and it was just like absolute nonsense. And it's such a bummer, but like that was really in recent memory the only time I've bought a game where it was been like, yeah, this sucks. Like, and I had bought Metro Exodus, and I was like, this game's not for me. It's too slow. It's kind of, sluggish, but like I can see why it's a good game to other people.
Right.
This Y2K was just like, nah, this just is not, just flat out not a good game.
That's crazy. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes like that stuff happens.
Exactly.
Like, I mean,
and like I don't necessarily hold it against anybody. Like the developers obviously tried their hardest, and like more power to them. They got my money, but like it was also like, man, I put 2 hours into this, and I'm never coming back.
What's funny for me is I think like a bad game, not necessarily, sometimes like controls can be frustrating, story can be bad. I think technically if a game does not run well, that's the most frustrating, because like,
well, and especially in a situation like that where we've had, ever since the fucking beginning of games, like you've had JRPGs that have no issue getting into those
right.
battles, and when it's basically the main conceit of the game and it happens so often, and you're trying to keep away from it because you don't want to do it. You don't want to sit through that wait. It's like, all right, come on, guys. Like, let's figure something out. And like, it sucks too because there was some cool shit in there. Like, I loved the art style. The music was pretty cool. And then like the combat stuff, you had your standard JRPG fare, but almost in a Paper Mario-esque kind of way. Each different character that you get has a different attack ability that's like a little mini game. So like the main character, he's this hipster kind of guy, and so he has vinyl records that he throws at his enemies, but it does this thing where when you do attack, it pulls up this little turntable with the records that you're throwing, and it has these spots on it, this like yellow and red little spots, and as the record turns, you have to time your button press in that spot.
Okay.
And the more you do it, the more combo you build up, the stronger the attack is.
Right.
It's like, oh, that kind of stuff's cool, but then everything else surrounding that is such a drag that you don't get to enjoy that fun little stuff.
Right. I think for me, I won't say it's the worst game I bought, because honestly, it's like I've asked that question to people, but it's still like trying to think of it myself. There's like games that have been like very disappointing. But
yeah.
Like, I honestly, actually, I will say probably the worst game I bought with my own money was Destiny.
Really?
So this is pre
everything?
Pre all these updates of Destiny. I was like the biggest Halo fan.
Yeah.
Like, Bungie can't fuck up. They're great. And literally like bought it, and that first week playing it, and it was so repetitive, and it just was not catching my attention.
See,
I was
it's
very
weird.
tired of hearing Peter Dinklage tell me to fucking stay in a spot while he did something as Ghost. Like, I literally turned around a week later, I was like, I can't do this. And again, after all these updates, it's fantastic. But
yeah, for
don't
sure.
put a game out and then 4 years later, 2 years later, tell me, oh, it's good now. Like,
so when I got Destiny originally, I had no issues with it, and it's weird because like everybody was pissed off about it, and like I understood why, but like I never had any problems, and that's coming. I think that's partially because like I loved Borderlands. Like Borderlands was one of my favorite games when it came out. Like I was super hyped for that, but like I played through that entire game by myself. Like, wow. I didn't play with anybody, and I did most of Borderlands 2 by myself. I did a playthrough with a friend, but like. When it came to Destiny, it just felt like Borderlands, and it was like, oh, this is fun. Like, I enjoy this. Like, it's a neat little world. Like, the art style's cool.
And
then
the shooting was good in the game. Like, the gameplay itself was fine. Yes. It was just like the lack
everything
of content
around it.
Yeah, it was just like, God, I can't.
And so when people were upset about it, it was like, I mean, like, I kind of get it, but like, I'm still having fun, so like...
And everybody has, like I said, like I knew people that played Destiny the whole time, and they were hyped on it, and I was just like, after like 1 week, I literally was tired of doing the same, goes to a place, fucking watch him while he does his shit, hold down the fort while he does his shit. I just got so tired of it for that 1 week, and I was like, I'm good, and I just got rid of it right away. Again, people told me, like, oh, well, after this and this update and this update, I'm like, yeah, that's great. I just, you know what I mean? Like, I would prefer you to have a game that launches. Like, Borderland, though, has content. Like, a lot
I will
of
give you
content.
that, for sure. There's a lot in that game.
Right.
But as somebody who played it alone, you know, I feel
by
like...
yourself, I can imagine being just not... I won't say not as fun, but definitely a different experience rather than playing with
exactly.
other people.
You know, for the people who were looking for that co-op, you know, raids and strikes and all that kind of stuff, like, I was so used to not having anybody for that it was like, all right, this is just, you know, normal everyday shit.
Right.
So I think my expectations were a lot lower on what I was getting out of it than other people, and that ended up tailoring that experience more towards my likes, whereas other people were, you know, expecting the world from a new Bungie game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, and I played the beta, and I was like, the beta was shooting wise was fine, but the content wasn't there. I was like, the full game should have more. And then
that was the thing for me, is the beta hooked me, because I didn't care for it. Seeing it, I was like, all right, cool, it'll be fine, but like, it's just not, it doesn't seem like my kind of game. But then I started playing the beta, and it had that one strike, and I loved playing that strike over and over and over again. And like, I was like, oh shit, if it's just going to be this more, and you know, if I'm just doing it by myself, like, it's going to be fun. And like, I never did it. I don't think to this day, I don't think I've ever done any raids in it. I've always done like the strikes and stuff. And like, I just had a blast. Didn't have any issue. And then I saw everybody, you know, up in arms over it. I was like, okay, I get why, but like, I guess I'm lucky that I didn't have that sort of aversion to what they provided.
Right. And then I think, like, technically the game was fine. It ran fine.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
The game that, for me, upset me from a technical standpoint, just because it's shitty, because all of the awesome Let's Plays I was seeing were all on PC, was Just Cause 3. Because I got that game on Xbox One, and it ran like butt.
Yeah,
it fucking ran
hot garbo.
Horribly. And there was an update that came out that supposedly made it better, so I kept the game until then, and then like I downloaded it, and it still ran bad. I was like, I gotta get rid of this. I can't play this game. And apparently Just Cause 4 runs better, but also I have an Xbox One.
Yeah, even then.
Yeah, I mean, on PC, that's the type of game where you see all the crazy shit running on a high-end PC, and it's amazing. But like, on an X, I'm sure it runs fine on an X. I haven't played it yet. It's on Game Pass, but whatever. I mean, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And you know,
I'll check it out one day, maybe.
I kind of gave up on Just Cause after I saw the cool shit that they were doing in Just Cause 2 on the PC, where they had that multiplayer mod that people made. And I was like, it's never going to be like that on the console. So I'm just going to, like, you know, I'm going to play 2 and have my fun and then like just move on. Cause like, that's what they should have done in the first place. Like, they should have had that weird, goofy, almost Saints Row-esque multiplayer suite in 3 instead of doing just the same stuff over and over again. Like, that was why everybody loved 2 so much, and then they haven't really been able to capture that same kind of feeling. Like, they've been trying to do, like, you know, you get wingsuits and you get like cool vehicles and like just adding more to it, but like, nothing's going to be more fun than swinging around with that parachute and then like spawning in a plane that somebody else is flying at like Mach speed and then landing into a group of people, exploding, and then all getting launched across this giant ass map, and then ending up on top of this floating, you know, rave, almost like or like airboat or whatever. Like, it was this weird amalgamation of all these cool parts of the actual game that they tweaked just enough to make it like just goofy and off the wall. And like, I don't think they ever recaptured that feeling that in like the later games of it.
I mean, like, I think technically they're able to do more, but also they sometimes, I felt, go too hard to the point where they're like, you're trying a lot right now.
Yep.
And you may need to hold up on some of these just to make it run smoothly. And then later on down the road when the consoles get more and more crazy, then you can go more and more nuts. But yeah, I mean, just, not saying it's a bad game. It just technically ran not very well. And that was what threw me off there. So, if people wanted to check you out on the internet or see all the things that you're talking about, where would they go do that?
I'd say don't, but no, if you guys want to see the stupid shit that I talk, I'm on Twitter, Insane Asylum, INSAYNE Asylum. But like, I'm not really like a crazy presence on the internet. Actually, you know what? Let me say this. I do have, a Instagram, Jeremy Insane, spelt the same way as I just spelt it, INSAYNE. And I do like art stuff, drawings and stuff like that. And like, I'll post a lot more shit there than I do on Twitter. Twitter's a lot more like retweets and, quote tweets. It's not like any original stuff. So if you ever want to see like actual stuff that I make or whatever, hop on Instagram. I do like doodles and stuff while I'm at work and, drawings at home, like practicing, trying to get better. Like I eventually want to make a comic book one day. So like just trying to learn how to draw to start. So yeah, check me out there instead.
Yeah, if you want to check him out, I'll have links in the show notes for all the above, so you can go check out his artwork and then check out his retweets of Cool Greg, because Cool Greg says some cool shit.
Me and Cool Greg are homies, man. My group was the group he stayed with in WrestleMania New Orleans.
Oh my God.
Me and him were pretty tight.
Nice.
So.
All right. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for sharing all the stories of Turkish tug jobs, because that's going to stay in my head forever. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. And again, thank you, Jeremy, for being on the show. Guys, if you want to check him out on Twitter, that's Insane Asylum. That's INSAYNE ASYLUM. I also will have a link for his Instagram as well, so if you want to check out any of the artwork he's doing, feel free to check him out there. Guys, if you want to be on the show just like he was, send me a tweet at MitchPower1116 on Twitter, or at the podcast Twitter page, which is at GUG Podcast on Twitter. We also have a YouTube channel. Just search up GUG Podcast there. You could also find the Facebook group, Growing Up Gaming, and the website, GUGpodcast.com. Guys, thank you guys so much for each and every week supporting the show. Although it was yesterday, this happens to be the 2-year anniversary of my show. So I'm very grateful to have all of the guests that I have had on, all of the awesome stories that I've heard, and how could I not make it even more awesome with hearing a gamer tag like Turkish Tug Jobs. I think I'm going to go try to find him on Xbox and friend him. He has no idea who I am, but he'll hopefully, if anybody's listening, just go ahead and send him a ton of friend requests, unless he's already gotten banned, which could be the case. So again, thank you guys so much for returning each and every week. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, share it with your buddies, make sure you get the word out so we can have everybody to share their stories, and I will catch you guys next week with another new episode. See ya.